I think if anyone can do it in and around that way, it's Billy Joe. He's certainly got the style. We know that is a style that generally has given Canelo the most problems. Lara, even Austin Trout, you know, but look, he beat them. You know, the Lara one was debatable. Obviously, a lot of people thought he didn't win that one. But look, it's clearly a style. Even Danny Jacobs. When I thought that first 6 rounds against Danny Jacobs, Canelo put on an absolute boxing master clinic. When Jacobs switched southpaw, it changed things because it broke his rhythm. You know, Canelo gets into this rhythm and you just can't. He just flows, man. It's just on a flow and it's just effortless. And he was working off Jacobs' jab. His own jab's brilliant. He's slipping, he's sliding, he's rolling underneath, he's pot shotting. You know, magic. But when Jacobs switched southpaw, it broke his rhythm. It took Canelo's jab away, and what he was doing, he couldn't slip inside the jab and close the distance. Yeah, he could slip out. If he was going to slip left, it meant he was slipping outside. If he was slipping this way, he's going to throw the right hand, which is further away, so it's more risky. So it just slowed everything down, and when it slowed everything down, and it took his rhythm away, and Jacobs was just shoe shining in there, just going brrr, 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 and they weren't really doing anything, but he was nicking the rounds. He nicked a few rounds that way and made it tighter. So Austin Trout, Lara, and even Jacobs switching southpaw, you can see that he struggles with it. Throwing on top of that Billy Joe's movement, you know, he's a nightmare opponent, really, style-wise for Canelo. But he's Canelo, and he's never looked better. You know, is he going to be able to look as good as that against Billy Joe? I think he'll struggle with Billy Joe's style, but he's Canelo, so I don't know.
Do you worry about the judges, Matt? We spoke to Mark Tibbs yesterday, and he said Billy will box Canelo's head off. But we've also spoke to Dave Caldwell, and Dave Caldwell said Billy's capable of it, but he just can't get touched for at least 7 rounds because of the way the judges will favour Canelo.
Oh no, listen, I think Billy Joe will be outboxing him certainly in parts. Early on, especially, I think, until Canelo starts to try and get a bit of a read of him. But like you say, I mean, if you watch the Amir Khan fight against Canelo, Khan was boxing so well, wasn't he, early on? I think most people would have had him winning, but yeah, he was way down on the cards, so I don't know.
If I give you a $5, Matt, where would you put your money?
Well, listen, I'm rooting for Billy Joe, you know what I mean? So, you know, I hope Billy Joe can do it. And look, he's definitely got the tools, and he's got the ability. I mean, how old was Billy Joe the last time he lost a fight? He was, I don't know. I lost in the Olympics, but he was 18 years old in the Olympics. And he lost to that Cuban, and it was close. But Billy Joe can box for fun. He can box with anyone. You know what I mean? I think his inactivity and his level of opposition has probably hurt him a little bit these last few years. If you compare that to Canelo, you know, coming into the fight as well.
I think Billy Joe Saunders is anybody at 168, anybody that's got the style to give Canelo problems is Billy Joe Saunders. Do I think now Billy can beat him? I don't know, because Canelo's been active. Not only has he been active, he's been consistently in the gym, improving, working to improve. Not just spending half a camp to lose weight and then just get back to where he was before the last camp. It's kind of like in the camp, have a couple of weeks off, back in the gym. In camp, have a couple of weeks, back in the gym. It's kind of like that's how he's been. And the rate of improvement for that just takes you up levels. Billy, for me, blows hot and cold. So you never know which Billy Joe Saunders you're going to get. He's not somebody that showed me that as the rounds go on, he can still keep everything that he was doing, the way he looks great and sharp early doors. Can he keep it going on? Can he go through the gears? I think it's a very tough fight for Billy. Style-wise, Billy at his best has got the ability to beat anybody. But because I think Billy Joe Saunders is a very, very good fighter. But do I think he's elite level? He's not shown me anything to suggest that he is elite level. He's got the He's got the elite level skill set. I think he's a genius. I think he's brilliant. But there needs to be everything. There needs to be other things that go in alongside that for you to beat the very, very best in the game. You know, you can't be going into a camp where if you've got, I don't know how many weeks it is. I don't know how it is. 12 weeks, say 13 weeks, 14 weeks, where you're spending 4 or 5 weeks of that losing weight, getting rid of a lot of shit, and then getting your timing back and all that. You need to be around where you can go in there and every session's improving you, because there is such a difference in levels to who he's boxed to who he's about to box. You know, for me, him against Andy Lee was brilliant, fantastic. I don't people rave over David Lemieux, but I expected that from Billy against David Lemieux, because David Lemieux's got no feet. You know, it was slow and very, very predictable. So I expected that. And he was brilliant. Don't get me wrong. He was absolutely brilliant. But they're the two standout performances, really, as a pro. Everything kind of since, unless I'm forgetting something, everything kind of since has been steady.
Yeah.
All right? Yeah. Steady. Whereas you look at the levels that Canelo's been fighting at, Callum Smith, Kovalev, Danny Jacobs, these are big fights. You know, good fighters, consistently. And he's been looking good. He's been looking good in them, and he's improving all the time, and he's hungry. I think it's very, very difficult to beat these guys that are at the very, very top, the elite level fighters, where it's a case of where if you haven't been doing your stuff consistently, I think that puts you at a disadvantage. So I would make Canelo a favourite, no doubt, because the other thing is for me is that I don't believe that Billy hits hard enough to stop Canelo. I don't believe Billy hits hard enough to stop Canelo coming at him and firing those body shots. And if Billy's not physically in a position where he can sustain what he needs to do for the full 12 rounds, it's a tough fight. And then also you've got to think, well, if Billy wins the rounds, but they're not 100% clear cut, is he going to get a decision? No. So how does Billy Joe Saunders win the fight? He has to win the majority of rounds so clearly, as in literally not get touched, and to be landing shots clearly on Canelo where they don't look like they're landing on Canelo's gloves, because if it looks like it's a land on Canelo's gloves, you guarantee the judges are going to be saying they are landing on Canelo's gloves and they're not landing. So he's got to be hitting him cleanly, and Canelo's got a good defense, so it's going to be very, very hard to land clean shots regularly on Canelo anyway. So it's a tough fight, a very tough fight for him.
It is indeed. If nothing else, Dave, I think the build-up might be worth tuning in for, knowing Billy.
Yeah. Listen, and Billy's going to 100% believe that he wins the fight. He doesn't care what anybody thinks. He 100% believes he's going to win the fight. And like I said, he's got the ability and the style that we know from the past gives Canelo problems. But Canelo seems to be a much wiser, cleverer fighter these days than what he was back when his fights against Lara and people like that he had problems with. So we'll see. But I'd love him to do it. I would love him to do it, but I just think it's a very, very tough fight. It's fighting the elite, the best of the best right now. So it's a tough fight.
Mark Tibbs has been training with Billy over in Fuerteventura. They've been training really hard. He looks in fantastic shape. And they're ready to put on a show. And they know it's a tough ask, but they don't come to lose. Billy Joe certainly doesn't come to lose. He's a born winner. So we'll be backing him all the way from England. Can he do it? Of course he can. No reason why he can't do it. Canelo is pound-for-pound king, and it's a massive ask. But listen, if you want to be a world champion, undisputed pound-for-pound king, then you've got to beat the pound-for-pound king. And Billy Joe's got the attitude, the mindset, and the skills. I think the only man who can cause Billy Joe any problems left in the division who he hasn't already fought.
that'll be a good fight, and it's not beyond Billy Joe to do it.
Would you be worried about the judging, Peter?
I think a lot of judges are fucking bent, to be honest. I don't even want to look and think about it. You know, at the end of the day, he's got to do what he's done. I wouldn't bother about the judge anyway. Got to get in there, do his best. Won't even think about it. Because I'm sure when we come up for world title fights again with Hughie, which will happen, I'm certainly not going to worry about what a judge is going to think.
Billy Joe Saunders he's got something which he was born with, and he worked on since he was 6, 7, 8 year old. And you know, boxing's in his blood. He's a craftsman. He's a very, very acute, astute boxer, and so you know he's got that going for him. I mean, always, you know, it's always good to be an active fighter. You know, it's always good to be an active fighter, but. We are where we are. We've got what we've got, and we'll work with what we've got. And I'm very confident in Billy Joe Saunders in pulling up a masterclass performance, and he rises to the occasion. He always does. He always has done.
Brilliant. Just on that, Mark, the common consensus is Canelo's never fought a fighter like Billy Joe. He brings a certain skill set that he might never have faced before. Is that how you think the fight will go to plan? That it'll Billy Joe's skills will be the thing that will cause Canelo problems?
Well, you know, Canelo's never fought with Billy Joe Saunders, and so I can understand why the public and boxing fans are saying that. And so that's what makes it exciting. How's Canelo going to deal with Billy Joe's slippery, silky skills? And it's up to Billy Joe to be disciplined in himself, to keep doing what he does best. But I'm confident he's going to be disciplined in doing that. And, you know, that's how we win fights, by being disciplined, being clever, and, yeah.
If it goes to plan, Mark. Sorry, Mark. If it goes to plan and it is Billy Joe's silky skills, the question that you'll probably get asked a million times, are you worried about the judging at all?
No, listen, look, at the end of the day, you can't worry about stuff that's out of your control, yeah? You cannot worry about stuff what you ain't got control over. I mean, in this particular fight, it's up to us, Billy Joe Saunders, to pull that performance off and win the people of the boxing world, the fans, the people sitting watching the fight. It's about winning getting their votes. And so you know, the judges, and we're in enemy territory. It's going to be difficult. We know that. We know what we're up against. But we ain't going to worry about that. We're going to go and do what we do best, and that's box his head off. That's what we intend to do.